Hi everyone, Dr. Tran here from Color Chiropractic in Bellingham, Washington. I am really excited for this discussion that we're about to have. And at the same time, I think some of you that are actually part of our newsletter actually know the person that I'm about to introduce. I intentionally told myself to not know that much about this person, aside from the fact that she's a patient at our office. She's my wife's patient, Dr. Michelle Sue, who will maybe hope to talk about a little bit later. But from what I've heard since she kind of made this post, which we'll talk about in a little bit later, that she is a mom. She is a entrepreneur, a health advocate. She's a fearless believer in God. She's a health educator, and probably a lot more that I really don't know yet. So welcome, Becki Taylor.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Tran. It is so fun to be on with you today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
That's good, me too. Well, before we even get started here, I do want to say that although I have a medical background and Dr. Sue does too, we're not anti-aging experts, nor is Becki here, But I think that both of us, have worked within the health industry long enough to know a thing or two when it comes to healthy aging. So if anything, I really love a good conversation, which is what we're about to have, and we'll probably go into some different, rabbit holes. But I think it's just going to be a really fun time. So, Becki, let me start off with you here. When you think about healthy aging, what does it really mean beyond, avoiding disease? What do you think about that?
Healthy aging is probably one of my favorite conversations. So I am thankful that you invited me on. Just avoiding disease is like, that's kind of looking at the picture in a big macro version, but healthy aging is something that I just see as a daily method of life. And there's all kinds of things I'm sure we're going to get into, but avoiding disease is kind of the way of fear. You're looking at it through the eyes of fear rather than the eyes of just living life in a preventative mindset and saying, what can I do to make today healthy? What am I going to do to make tomorrow a healthier version of me? And thinking about improving your life and your health, your hydration, your diet, your exercise, just by 1% a day, if not 1% a week. So, really when I look at it, it is, if you're doing it to avoid disease, you're first of all approaching it through the eyes of fear, and not just through the eyes of just faith, and through the eyes of how am I going to love this place that I live each day a little better. So start there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we tend to neglect our bodies until they're broken down a lot of times. I mean, classical thing, even when I was in chiropractic school, was the idea that, we take care of our cars better than we do ourselves, because we take it in to be able to get our car checked out. If that hazard light goes on, we're kind of sensing trouble there. I mean, we should be able to have that. But it's so funny that nowadays, we're better off than we were in terms of technology, right? Rather than waiting for symptoms to happen, we have so much available to us to really analyze, but also to do something about it. And that's probably the more empowering thing, wouldn't you say?
Oh, 100% is like your car analogy is so perfect because the car, people that fix our cars put our little sticker on and go, every 5,000 miles, you need to go in and get your oil changed. But we don't think of our body as traveling day by day, and the impacts of our environment, even the food assault, the atmosphere assault, the EMF assaults that we have on our body, that's like trying to break us down a little bit every day, but we don't think of it as, okay, what does maintenance mean for me? If I can maintain my car before, you want to do it before your engine blows up.
Yeah.
By the time your engine blows up, then you're really in trouble. And if in our bodies, by the time, I'll call the engine blowing up a symptom, by the time a symptom erupts in our body, we've already gone quite far down the pathway into that,
Right.
onto the journey into that disease pathway.
Yeah.
So we need to be just reel it in a little bit and go, it's okay to take care of this house that we get to live in. We get very few years. How are we going to manage and steward what this house that we do get to live in?
Yeah, yeah. And some of these things, like you said, the symptoms is here's a saying is symptoms are usually the last thing to show and the first thing to go. Right? So a lot of times when people are thinking that I'm not in pain anymore, they think that they're equating that to the problem, which really is just the thing that instigated the symptoms in the first place. It's not to say that you shouldn't pay attention to symptoms. In fact, we even have a symptom survey in our office that helps us to understand the body, not from just a symptoms point of view, but from a systems point of view. The idea that a breakdown or these accumulation of symptoms that you're accumulating is kind of an indication of brain health, or it's an indication of heart health. These are certain things that if we learn the language of symptoms, that can lead us towards the idea of being able to do something about it. And that's kind of like, well, when the steering wheel is shaking enough, that's when I'm gonna pay attention, right? But then there's so many different things that we can pay attention to nowadays. So let's say because I know that you do a couple of different tests, what are some really key functional, even biomarkers or functional tests or health indicators that you use, to be able to monitor your own health?
Well, monitoring my own health, I had gotten to the point of knowing, well, whenever you have a trauma happen in your life, you know that you've just put yourself in kind of a pause mode, and I'm one of those, like many people. I broke my neck back in 2006, so I knew as a result of that trauma that there was going to be some management that I would have to deal with as things unfolded. And I was very blessed not to have a lot of residual symptoms, but I was also careful to always listen to my body. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to break out and have spinal pain, severe aches, or things that happen. Because like I said, by the time a symptom comes that's rare and roaring at you, now you've got to unravel things. So I started doing just management, strengthening my body, strengthening my neck, strengthening myself through exercise. I started out light, and now I'm a CrossFitter, at 63, going to be 64 years old. And so I built myself up to the point where I can do CrossFit, scaling to my age and stuff. But I had to work into that. So that would be the exercise start of it. Nutrition is also huge, is putting the right ingredients in my body. I'm a firm believer that our body longs. It's created to heal and repair itself. It's why I love cervical care that you do, is that you could probably be the best to explain this, that people come in and their back is racked with pain, and I've had this hip pain, this knee pain, this back pain for years. I'm finally going to come get it tested, by a chiropractor. Well, what if they did it when they were just, what if they started the care even a little bit before that huge pain came up? Could they have subverted it, avoided, and maybe done a little spinal care in the midst of it before that symptom would be roaring? So I'm a huge spinal care person. I go whether I feel like I need it or not, because I know the impacts that are on my body. Toxins will throw your spine out of alignment.
Right.
A lot of things can throw your spine out of alignment, not just in a car accident. So that's just a huge part of my care as well. And the proper holistic methylated supplementation. And then I do something that's called activation, where I turn on the switches inside my cells to do what they were created to do. So there's also things that you can do to turn your cells back on. So those are some of the things that I have been actively pursuing for especially the last 11 years of my life.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because there's so much out there, and some of it, I guess if you go down the anti-aging route, the thing that's really unique about it, when I kind of dove into it early on in my career, was how regenerative the body actually is.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how wonderful our bodies are really able to recover. Sometimes if you think about, the idea that someone was a chain smoker, and or someone had so many bad habits and they've broken down their bodies. Well, when they stop doing what caused them to get there in the first place, and they start making health inducing habits, how the body really starts to change around, because the turnover of cells and the regeneration of cells within your body can happen so quickly. I mean, I think that the stomach, the cells turn over within less than a week. So the idea of like, you might be asking yourself, well, if my stomach cells are turning over like every week, well, why do I still have the ulcer? And the whole thing that we need to understand is that when it comes time for that cell to actually divide and replace itself, it's going to recreate itself along the same lines of stress that it had been exposed to. So if we're actually exposed to these different levels of stress, whether it's bad food, whether it's the emotions that get lodged up in our stomach, like in our practice, we talk about feelings of low self-esteem or being overly emotional. Sometimes those emotions can get lodged up in our body to the point where they get stuffed down. And then when the cells actually recreate themselves, well, they're going to still hold that sense of stress. And it's not until we start to let that go, become more aware, and really get the care that we need, that the body starts doing what it's naturally meant to do, which is to heal itself.
You are absolutely speaking my language. And honestly, Dr. Tran, that's one of the reasons why I love the practice that you and Dr. Michelle have, is because you truly understand that the body keeps score.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
And there is a book out there that's called that the body keeps score.
Yeah.
And it doesn't forget the trauma. Your brain might be able to put it away, but your body just doesn't. And the fact that you understand that so clearly, that you've got to unlock that cellular memory and set that thing free.
Right.
And then you've got to do the proper actions, the health actions, the holistic actions to then follow up. And to think that the body can literally regenerate a brand new, gut and intestinal system is truly the beauty of God's design. But like you said, the key is to know that if you don't change the course of your cells, through proper activity, and whether it have to be some supplementation or something, that it will regenerate in its like kind.
Yeah.
So
right.
Getting it healthy will get you the new cells, so you can regenerate a new, fresh, clean one, instead of that repeat offender that they'll like a mitochondria. If they're broken, your mitochondria will create broken mitochondria. As soon as you heal your mitochondria and get that whole again, they're going to start making whole mitochondria. So the cells are smart. They're fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. And it can be, some of these things I found to be foundational. I think what we wanted to do, just to maybe leave people in an empowering conversation, what are certain things that I can do to really change my health in terms of healthy aging, right? I think, the thing that I'm continuously surprised with when I do these systems survey is how much people are lacking in that foundational support. The idea of vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids is so foundational that when I started to recommend that to people when they had those symptoms related towards foundational support, I was amazed on wow, how much of a difference that makes. What are some different things that you found when you're working with your clients in terms of strategies to help them out?
I think one of the greatest offenders that I found in my as I practice and work with people is when I've done testing on them, and the kind of testing I do, 100% of the people that have come through have gut issues. And that to me is probably the most fascinating, that there's always something going on in the gut. And there we go back to the society and the food that is so incompatible in our nation, that is normalized. That's not normal food at all. And with that what people are eating, their stress levels are high, their sleep is high. So I think that is probably one of the greatest offenders that I've found, is the impact that their gut is having. And that is where your immune health lives. It's where your brain health is. I've been able to deal with people that thought they were in early dementia. Guess what showed up? Gut, 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 all through parasites, fungus, things that are happening in their gut that have erupted. And I'm like, well, of course it's going to disrupt that brain gut, which is the gut is your second brain. So I've really, really leaned into the foundational health. And that's interesting that you would bring it up earlier, is about the gut regenerating itself, because that's where a lot of our health lies, our immune health, where you start getting these autoimmune disorders. All of them have unhealthy guts. Yeah. So that is really where right now, other things, yes, but exactly like you said, people are mineral deficient, they're omega deficient. Our foods are not giving us, you can't eat enough food to put supplements in your body right now. I mean, even sometimes our organic food isn't so organic anymore. So we're going to need support measures to support those systems in our body that need that extra support. And there's metabolic panels, there's nutritional panels. You can find out these things of what's going on in your body and say, here, this is what your body's saying. It doesn't lie. I always have to say it. Remember, your brain can try to fool you, but your body cannot lie. And that's why I love your muscle testing that you do, because you can say, it doesn't matter what your brain's saying. Let's see what your body says.
I thought it could be fun for this question here. People on this news, receiving this type of podcast, they may know my wife, Dr. Michelle. She's an amazing practitioner. A lot of times she's more in the background of these types of interviews and questions, because she's not necessarily like a camera person all the time, but it's more of like, she doesn't, for her own good, I guess she doesn't really speak that much about herself. Can you talk more about how your experience has been with her as a patient, and really kind of how that was even different from other people that you've worked with?
Dr. Michelle is just rich. And because I had an expectation of how you guys operate and how you come in, I think I just kind of came in, fire blazing, just like, I know what you do. I understand that you're great. And I'm diving right in. I don't know what my brain's going to tell you, but I want you just to read my body. Tell me what's going on inside my body. And I knew I was going through some kind of like some trigger traumas that had come up, and they were just loops that kept happening through years. And I just thought I wanted to go find out where they were lodged in my body, how they were connected to my past or whatever. So she was just like, okay, let's go. I think she's quiet but powerful. She's intuitive. She's asking the right questions. She's dialed into you. You're the person in the room with her. She doesn't rush you out of there or rush to get through anything that you might need. I've just bonded with her so much. I just have such a love for Dr. Michelle and an appreciation for her ability to see what is needed for you or what is not needed.
Yeah.
She'll either tell you the way it is and let's just deal with it. And how does that feel? And turn you upside down and check you all, whatever way she checks you. I just have such a trust for her. And in her quietness, she listens. She's inquisitive. She asks questions. And she's not afraid to learn something new, because people know what's going on with them. A lot of them. I'm kind of the high in tune with my body type of person. And so I love that she respects that I have some valuable information that could actually benefit or bless her, but I receive all that she has for me. I'm like, bring it. I trust you completely. So yeah. I honestly, I could brag on her for the rest of this little conversation here, to be honest, because I think she is so valuable. And you are blessed if you get to see Dr. Michelle. And I haven't had the blessing to see you, and that's why we don't know each other as well. Yeah. But I know you're great because I know people that do see you.
No, it's been wonderful, and it's been such a growing experience, with Dr. Michelle, and even though, her and I started off doing similar training, we each have our own kind of subspecialties. We have our different ways of actually, we have like, both do muscle testing, but it's like kind of the doctor that's in between the two ears. It's like, the way that her training has really led her to looking at the body from different points of view than what I might actually look at. So when we kind of put our heads together, certain things can kind of happen that are really in collaboration with each other, but sometimes they might be in disagreement, and that's the beauty of it, is that you understand health from those different perspectives.
100%. Yeah.
And that's probably one of the things that I want to, kind of bring up here. A lot of you viewing the newsletter know about our different thing that we're doing. We're doing what's called a wellness check along with a chiropractic visit. It's during the month of February. And what we wanted to do this was actually based off of one of our patients asking about how can I actually measure healthy aging. We talked about this in this interview where we're like, there's so many different things that you can measure. And even, practically speaking, things like grip strength, that can actually be used as a tool to measure your cardiovascular health. It's actually even a better indicator than your blood pressure itself. Whereas blood pressure, when you take the numbers and you kind of measure that, it can actually tell you how your organs are actually functioning too. So what we decided to do with this wellness check is we combine things like grip strength, blood pressure, flexibility, along with a spinal stress scale. All these are really good indicators to be able to tell us where you are in terms of healthy aging in those metrics. And it's going to be really fun. And, you and I talked, and if the camera angle's right, we're going to try to see if we can get some footage of you actually getting your assessment, because, there was a recent post that you made where you said you got kicked out of your chiropractor's office. I don't know if you want to mention that at all.
Oh, that threw you off. I know. It was great.
I
went in there. Actually, my last chiropractor appointment, so it's been I think it's been 2 weeks ago. I went in there, and interestingly, I'd gone on a 5-day fast and came off that fast, and boy, a lot of things I felt like just broke off my body, broke off myself in that 5-day fast. It was fascinating. It wasn't a water fast. I don't need to get into what kind of fast it was, but it was a very calculated one. But anyway, I came in afterward and I was feeling so good. I was like, I feel great. I feel bright. I feel light. I feel balanced. And she goes, do you have anything going on? I'm like, actually, I don't think so, but I don't know. Maybe I'm having a false high. I don't know. And she'd like test me. And she just started doing her testing. And then she goes, She goes, well, let's test the other side. So she tests the other side and does her wonderful little things, asking my body all the questions that she's always asked it before. And usually come up with she usually always comes up with something. She goes, you're right. You're completely balanced. You don't have any blockages. Everything's flowing. Both sides are flowing. I don't even detect that your body's asking for a cervical adjustment. And I'm like,
wow.
Oh, I'm like, oh, she's like, she was a little stunned too. And I'm like, she goes, well, if you want me to do something, I will. I'm like, well, if my body doesn't need it. And she just says, this is very rare, but it very rare. She said, but it happens, but it's really rare. She goes, you can go if you want. And I'm like, okay, no pot. She goes, no charge. I didn't do anything, so no charge. I'm like, I kind of felt a little lost. I kind of picked up my purse. I'm like, okay, well, all right, hallelujah. And so anyway, I got home and I'm like, I have got to post about this, because I knew if I did it, I got kicked out of my chiropractor's office, it would be kind of clickbait. And it was indeed.
Yeah, it got my attention. I definitely got the bait.
But it was such a good story. It's like what I'm doing to myself, I call myself the activated senior, and my husband and my motto is to die late, as young as possible. That's our motto as we age together. And I'm like, it must be working. I got kicked out of my chiropractor's office. So that was kind of fun. Anyway, cool. That's cool. I made fun of it. But at the same time, I was able to say, hey, go to them. So it was great, because I got to shout you guys out in a really good way.
Well, considering the different things that we've talked about here today, as well as, you know, how you are. You're just so vibrant. I know that there's not as much that I know about you, but now that we can, you know, now that I'm not going to be starstruck, maybe you can tell me more about how people know more and can know more about you, you know?
Well, I'm about as transparent as it gets on Facebook, and because of the industry I'm in, I've been a real estate professional for 23 years locally, so I'm kind of known locally. I do a radio show, you know, once a month, which I gave you a shout out on my last one too, both you and Dr. Michelle. But you know, if they're on Facebook, you know, you can search certain things by going hashtag and this, and I call myself I am Becki. It's kind of a declaration, Becki with an I. You can hashtag I am Becki. If you want to find me on Facebook and kind of see my life, I'm super transparent. I'm 9 grandchildren, and so that's why I am so passionate about healthy aging and my health span and my lifespan.
Yes,
that's why. But Facebook is one. You know, I do epigenetic hair analysis, and that's bioscanbybecky.com. So you could find me there. But Facebook is really a great source. But I'm pretty available. Becki with an I Taylor, and chances are, if you're friends with Dr. Tran, you'll be friends with me somewhere on Facebook if you're on Facebook. And if not, you can Google me, and I'll probably come up somewhere.
It's such a small town. I was like looking you up on Facebook, and I said, like, we actually have over 100 friends similarly. So I'm like,
see, if you know Dr. Tran, you'll find me.
Found somehow. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you, Becki, and kind of square it off on why you got kicked out of the chiropractor's office. All the way, all the way to
delightful, Dr. Tran.
This topic on healthy aging. I really appreciate, you know, your time and being able to, you know, contribute in the way that you do to our community in terms of bettering people's health too. So, you know, I know that I'll probably see you at the office sometime.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, it's a daily practice. It's like a weekly practice. And, you know, other than that, maybe we'll be able to catch you guys here. I know this tape was a little bit long, okay? We're going a little bit longer than we usually do, but hey, you know, Joe Rogan can be able to do it for 3 hours. Maybe we could do it for 25 minutes. You let us know. Let me know whether this was actually too long for us or whether the energy just kept on, you know, being, hey, let it ride, you know, let us know. Okay? Well, we look forward to being able to see you. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
If you like what you saw, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, feel free to share, and subscribe to our YouTube station. If you have any questions or suggestions, we appreciate it. Just email us at info@colorchiropractic.com. And if you want to know more about our practice, go to colorchiropractic.com. We are Color Chiropractic, where healing is achieved through personalized care and collaboration.